to yet another edition of Time Pass. I have with me perhaps the director of one of the greatest films, Hindi films have ever produced, Sholay, and Sudhir Srinivasan, a big fanboy, I think, who is the entertainment editor of the New Indian Express. It's such a pleasure to have you with us, Mr. Sippy, to talk about, I think, everybody's favorite film. And I want to start by, I know that everyone asks you about Sholay all the time, and you made other such lovely films as well. But that's one of the professional hazards of making one of the greatest films in Hindi cinema. So it's your fault.
I can handle it.
So I wanted to start, Mr. Sippy, by asking about, what I found very interesting. I was just thinking about it the other day, and you have Sholay, you have Lagan, you have DDLJ, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, and somehow Mother India, of course, and somehow all these movies have
Mughal-e-Azam.
No, not so much Mughal-e-Azam. I'll tell you what I was getting to.
Okay, go
the
ahead.
whole idea that they, in a way, come back to the village. The village is the site for the real action. Even in DDLJ, the first part is in overseas, and the second part is in the pin. And Sholay, of course, they come back to Ramgarh. But the idea of this village that you had for someone who's a city boy, a city slicker, and I think who just come back from America, if I'm not mistaken, just recently. And what was your idea of the village, and how did you sort of, how did it pan out when you were actually making Sholay?
The village was popular at that time because obviously, even today it is, but I guess that's the heart of India.
Yeah.
That's the reason you identify with it strongly. Everybody knows about it. You may be a city guy, but that doesn't mean that you don't know what the village is. That's where it all started.
Yeah.
So my idea of the village came from the fact that a lot of films had been made in the Chambal Valley, the dacoit films. This is the dacoit culture. The film has that dacoit culture. So where should I set it? From the language and all, it's very obvious that it needs, it is talking about the same area because that's where you identify the dacoits to be. And it's a colorful language. But the other factor was, but now how to make it look different from all the other films. So if you go to a kind of a no man's land, which nobody can really recognize, it's just a lovely setting. So told the art director, Achrekar, M.R. Achrekar, would you find us something like this? And what I had in mind was those hard, rocky areas. That's what I told him about. And that led to this journey down south, in and around Bangalore. And the moment I saw the setting in this particular place, we saw a few, but when we happened upon this place, I just felt right.
Right.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Sorry?
It's fascinating you mentioned this because typically films set in the north have this arid vibe going on in terms of the location. But the locations in this film seem to have a fair bit of vegetation as well.
Yeah. It was just to break away from that, the arid look, because it's come in every film. So how will this look a little different? Because of the rocks, the atmosphere still exists. It feels that it's out there, nowhere kind of place. But the difference was that it gave a certain solidity to the whole thing, which, like whichever location he took me to, oh God, this will be great for Gabbar's Den. It's a natural setting. I don't have to build a set, because building a set means making it artificial again.
Yeah.
So here's right in the heart of nature. And actually we ended up with a film which is mostly outdoors. Even if you're at Thakur's house or you're at Basanti's out, it'll always be outside.
Right.
Very rarely that we went indoors.
Hmm.
Even the lighting of the lamps,
Yes.
you know, everything was outside.
Yeah.
Overall feel became sort of set for that.
Yeah.
But it worked.
In case someone who's watching this conversation is wondering why we are talking about Sholay now,
Yes,
I'm
of
not sure we
course.
mentioned it. It's because
We
it's
did
completed
mention
45
that,
years
yeah.
very recently. So that's, of course, the reason we're having this conversation. An excuse to have this conversation, if you will. Because it's been 45 years, I want to talk about one of the legends surrounding this film is about how when it came out, it didn't do particularly well immediately after it came out. There was a fair amount.
You know, that's a myth.
Oh, it is. I see.
I'll tell you what's true about it and what's not.
Yeah.
Please, absolutely.
It was the most awaited film. The star cast, when we started, Amitabh was not a star, but by the time we finished the film, Diwar and Zanjeer and Diwar and had been released. So he had become a star during the making of the film. But at the time of the release, he was.
Yeah.
So to see so many people there and not have an opening or have a poor impression in the beginning is not true. We had a fantastic advance booking. Those days, we did not release the film simultaneously. It was in pockets because there was no piracy. Of course, there was no all these problems we didn't have. Okay, so when you take this atmosphere of the rocks and what you really want to present finally is the hardcore of the story, which is about a dacoit and which is about exploitation of the poor and all that. That's what you want to capture. And then, of course, the interpersonal relationships.
Yes.
So I think as it finally turned out, that decision was a good one, that we went there and captured that kind of atmosphere which had not come on the Indian screen before.
Before that, yeah.
Right.
And of course, taking all the paraphernalia with it, your horses and your syces and your, army of workers. One day they're building this, one day they're building that. They even built that little road, the up and down for the opening shot of the motorcycle song.
Right.
There was a built road by us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was not a nod. It was set in very natural surrounding. It was created because of those bumps. I wanted to disappear and appear, you know.
Right.
So just for that shot.
Right.
So, Mr. Sippy, tell me, is there any truth that you considered changing the end of this film? Is there any truth to that at all?
Again, not true.
Okay, right.
But why it went around, I need to tell you that. One was the death of Gabbar, which I had originally picturized and wanted that to be the original ending. That the censors had a big row with being on that.
They thought it was too gory, right?
I think they had a problem using
whatever it was, they didn't want a police officer taking law into his hands and shooting a guy.
Okay.
So that became a point of controversy, and you cannot have a controversy during the emergency.
Yes.
Right.
We forget that was the emergency.
In June, the emergency had come about before the censorship.
Right.
Before that, if it was earlier, maybe we may have got away with it, but
at
that time we could not. So that was that. But the other controversy that came about was there was a hue and cry, oh, why does Amitabh have to die?
Of course. Right.
So that was not a part of the story at all. they would have wished him to go on. It was that kind of feeling. But that's what we want. I kept arguing with everyone, but amongst us, there was no confusion as to what it should be. But with the outsiders, so the critics had panned it on the Saturday of the release.
Right.
And the pall of gloom was all over the industry. And especially with us, that we were the manufacturers of this pall of doom. And we were going to close the industry down. I mean, it's like that.
Right.
How can you make a film like this? How can you make a film so expensive? And how can you make it with these kind of themes and this kind of that? So there was a lot of criticism. And having served such notice to the film, they found it difficult to retrieve. Because you can't, as the master of your trade, say one thing on a Saturday and be off with it by Monday or Tuesday. You can't change your mind, or the next week. It took them 7 weeks to admit that they had made a mistake. They literally said that the end of industry.
Yeah.
I mean, if films like this are made here, then there's no way this can work.